Welcome to the Strucksoft Center community.
Hello everyone, welcome back you all in this new video. In this video, we are going to talk about professional approach for manual design of scaffolding with axial loads only. This complete problem we are going to solve in a few important steps. In the first step, we will discussing about problem statement, preliminary size of the footing and trial depth of the footing. In the second step, we are going to perform the design for the flexural reinforcement. In the third step, there will be design checks for one-way shear and two-way shear. In the fourth step, we are going to prepare schedule and detail as per the design results. And finally, at the end of this video, I will show you some bonus tips and tools so that you can design this type of foundation in just of 2 to 3 minutes. If you are going to do the manual design, it will take about 1 hour. But I will show you important tool at the end of this video, and by that tool you will be able to design in just of 2 to 3 minutes only. So for better understanding of everything, I would like to request please watch this video till its end. First of all, try to understand the problem statement. So we have to design a solid footing which is subjected to an axial load of 1000 kilonewton as a dead load and imposed load means the live load of 400 kilonewton. So there is a column which is carrying a load of 1000 kilonewton as a dead load and 400 kilonewton as a live load, and the column having the size of 400 by 400 in mm. The material that we have to use for the designing of this foundation as M20 grade of concrete and Fe415 grade of steel. The bearing capacity of the soil at the proposed land is 200 kilonewton per meter square. This is the SBC of the soil, and as per the soil investigation report, the allowable settlement is 25 mm, and the depth of the foundation from the ground level as 2.5 meter, as from the figure you can see that. So from the existing ground level, this is your ground level, from the ground level the base of the footing is at a depth of 2.5 meter, and there is a column of size 400 by 400 in mm. So in respect of all this given data, given information, we have to design a solid footing that should be safe to carry this load, as well as that should be safe to transfer the load to the subsoil. That is the objective. And as we have given the size of the column as 400 by 400, so we are preferring to provide the square footing. Normally when the size of the column is square, we are preferring to provide the square footing. When the size of the column is rectangular, for an example 230 by 600 like this, so it is a rectangular size of the column, so we are preferring to provide the rectangular shape or size of the footing. But if your column is square, at that time we are preferring to provide the square footing. Or it is not compulsory. If you would like to provide the rectangular footing for square column, that you can do. Square footing for rectangular column, that also you can do. There is not a compulsion, but normally we are providing the square footing for the case of square column, rectangular footing for the case of rectangular column. Why it is, we will discuss it later. But as of now, we have to design our foundation in respect of all of this given data. So in the very first step, we are going to do the preliminary sizing of the footing. Means what should be the safe size of the footing in respect of length, in respect of width, in respect of depth. We have to find out the preliminary sizes, and with that preliminary sizes we are going to do the design and performing the check. If that size is safe, then we are going to adopt it. If that size is not safe, then we will repeat the calculation. So very first thing, we had to find out what total load is going to be transferred to your soil through your column, through your footing. Your column is carrying the dead load and live load, so we are going to do the summation of these two. So dead load column is carrying what? 1000 kilonewton, lie load 400 kilonewton, total load transferred through your column is 1400 kilonewton. But there will be one additional load, that is nothing but your self weight of the footing, because your column weight, column load plus self weight of the footing, both are combinedly going to be transferred to your soil. So we had to add these two things. But to know the self weight of the footing, we need to know three things. One is your length of the footing, one is your width of the footing, one is your depth of the footing. So basically, if you are going to multiply these all, you will get the self weight of the footing by multiplying the unit weight of the material by which it is going to be made up of. So unit weight of the concrete is 25, then length of the footing, width of the footing, depth of the footing. But at this time we don't have all this data. We are not knowing what is the length, we are not knowing what is the width, we are not knowing what is the depth. So these parameters we are not knowing, that's why we cannot calculate the self weight of the footing at the preliminary stage. So what we are going to do, we are going to assume the weight of the footing as 10% of the load which is coming through column, and 10% of 1400, obviously 140 kilonewton. Now we are going to add 1400 plus 140 kilonewton. So total load is going to be transferred to your soil is 1540 kilonewton. As in the figure also you can see, total load from the column is going to be transferred as 1540 kilonewton. Now if this load is going to act over the soil through your foundation, then the soil what will do? Soil is going to react against this application of the load, and that is called as upward soil pressure. We know the Newton's law of motion, action and reaction. We need to calculate what is the upward soil pressure. But before of calculating that upward soil pressure, we first have to calculate the required area of the footing. So area required will equal to total intensity of the load which is going to be transferred to the soil divided by SBC of the soil. We have given the SBC of the soil as what? 200 kilonewton. So put it here, and finally we are getting the required area of the footing 7.7 meter square. This much area is needed to provide, but we are going to provide the square footing, not the rectangular footing, because our column is square. If your column is square, I would suggest to provide the square footing. So square footing, length of the footing, width of the footing will be equal, and that will be equal to square root of required area of the footing, and we are getting the size of the footing requirement as 2.77. For the safety we are going to take it as 2.8 meter. So finally here we are going to decide the length and width of the footing as 2.8 meter, means your footing is going to become what? Square footing. Length is also 2.8 and width is also 2.8, right? Now adopting the length and width of the footing as same, because we have to design footing as square footing. Finally area of the footing provided how much? Finally provided area of the footing, length of the footing, width of the footing, it is going to become 7.84 meter square, which should be greater than the required one. For the safe transfer of the load over the soil which is having the SBC of the soil as 200, we need to provide the 7.7 meter square area, and we are going to provide the 7.84 meter square area. So it is safe. We are going to provide little more than that of the requirement, hence it is acceptable. Next we have to provide the upward soil pressure. As we earlier discussed that if your column is going to impose the load over your soil, so soil is going to react over to your footing base, and for that reason we need to calculate the upward soil pressure, that we are going to denote by W as equal to total load is going to be transferred divided by total area provided, and we are getting the upward soil pressure 196.43 kilonewton per meter square. This is what? Upward soil pressure, and this upward soil pressure is uniform from this end to this end. It is what? Uniform intensity. Why? Because your footing is square footing, your column is going to rest at the center of the footing. That's why we are getting the uniform pressure, plus your footing is not going to be subjected to any kind of movement or any kind of eccentricity. That's why we are getting the uniform upward soil pressure, and that is very good thing for effective and stable design of your foundation. So this is what first step to find out the in plan preliminary dimension of the footing. Next, we are going to do the flexural design of the foundation, or finding the flexural reinforcement, because we want to provide the reinforcement in the foundation. So what reinforcement is required? We need to calculate that, and how you can calculate that, have a look over this. So very first we need to find out the projection from the face of the column up to the edge of the footing. This is what your column, we have to calculate this projection, how much this projection is. How you can calculate this projection? This projection is very simple to calculate. 2.8 meter minus this side, that is 0.4 meter, size of the column 0.4 meter, divided by 2. If you are going to divide it by 2, you will get this projection as 1.2 meter, which is called as cantilever projection. Try to understand the concept of flexural behavior of your foundation. This is your foundation and this is your column, and below to your base of the foundation there is a presence of the soil, and the load is going to act through your column to your foundation, and then foundation, it is going to be transferred to the soil. Against to this action, soil is going to impose the reactive force, upward soil pressure at the base of the foundation. If you are going to see here what is happening, the load is going to transfer through this portion only, and against to this action there is a reaction at every of the point. Upward soil pressure is available at every of the point. So this part of the footing is going to behave stiff enough. It is a rigid part because action is there, reaction is there. There we are going to consider as equal. So it is going to become very stable. It is going to become very stiff. It is going to become very rigid. So it is not going to move anywhere. But if you are going to see this portion of the foundation, what is happening? The upward soil pressure is dominating and there is no effective downward force at this point. So what is happening? This part of the foundation is going to be what? Deflected in this pattern, and this pattern is called as flexural response. On this side also it is going to be what? Deflected in this pattern, that is nothing but your flexural response. And if you are going to see the bottom face, it will be under tensile stress. If you are going to see the top face, it will be under the compressive stress. This is the tensile stress, this is your compressive stress zone or phase, and we are providing the reinforcement in the zone of the tensile stresses. So we need to provide the reinforcement here. We don't need to provide the reinforcement on the top face. So basically maximum stress, flexural stress, maximum movement is going to be generating at the face of your column. At this face, the maximum movement is going to be developed due to this cantilever action. That's why we need to find out this cantilever projection from the face of the column up to the edge of the footing. That's why we need to calculate the projection from the face of the column up to the edge of the footing. So total length minus size of the column divided by 2, we are getting the projection as 1.2 meter. And again I would like to draw the figure here. If you are going to see, this is the rigid part and this is the cantilever portion, right? And this is what 1.2 meter movement along both the direction, because your footing is square footing. So if you are going to do the calculation in this direction, if you are going to do the calculation in this direction, in both of the direction calculation will be same, values will be same, results will be same. So nothing will be different, everything will be same. So that's why movement along the both direction, along x direction as well as along y direction, upward soil pressure 196.43, because upward soil pressure will be there, multiplied by transverse direction of the footing. If you are going to do the calculation along this direction, you have to consider transverse width. So transverse width is what? 2.8 meter. And obviously if you will do the calculation in this direction, the transverse dimension will be 2800 or 2.8 meter. So because it is a square footing, in both the direction calculation will be same. When you are going to deal with the rectangular footing, at that time it is changing, but as we are dealing with the square footing, it will be same. So I am going to write here 196 upward soil pressure multiplied by transverse dimension 2.8 meter multiplied by cantilever span. Cantilever span is what? 1.2 meter square divided by 2. This is the formula for the cantilever portion. And after doing this calculation, we are getting the moment as 396 kilonewton meter. And this is the service moment. We have to calculate the factored moment. So ultimate moment or factored moment will be equal to 1.5 times 396, and after doing this calculation 594 kilonewton meter is the moment. And finally we had to calculate the effective depth required for this foundation. So effective depth required for this foundation will be equal to square root of ultimate moment divided by 0.138 FCKB. If you are going to put all the values in this formula, you are getting the effective depth requirement as 277.24 in mm. This is the effective depth required for this foundation. But here one important point is very important to note. That is what depth of the foundation overall we should have to consider. So here if you are going to see the overall depth of the foundation, we are going to consider as 600. But if you are going to see the requirement is just 277.24. So why this increased overall depth we are going to provide? So basically the foundation is going to be designed for two criterias. Especially the depth of the foundation is going to be decided by the two criterias. One is your flexural criteria, another one is your shear criteria. Flexural demand and shear demand. So flexural means the behavior just now we have seen. The movement is going to develop. To prevent or to resist that movement, what depth is required, that is called as flexural depth demand. And this depth is actually the flexural depth demand 277.24. But there is another check as shear check, one way shear check, two way shear check, shear design, whether your depth of the foundation will be safe in shear or not, in cracking or not, in punching or not. So based on that also we have to decide the depth of the foundation. But for your kind information, the depth of the foundation demand is going to be governed by shear criteria. Shear demands more depth in comparison of your flexural demand. That's why by keeping that point in our mind, we are going to take more depth so that it should save. If I would like to proceed with this effective depth, or in respect of this effective depth, if suppose I am going to provide the overall depth, so it may be possible that this depth will fail in one way shear check, in punching shear check. that's why we should have to consider some increased depth. And as per expert recommendation, whatever the flexural depth required, it's 2 to 3 times the depth to be considered for your shear. So here we are getting what? 277. Let's say approximately I am going to say it is what? 300. And if you are going to multiply it with 2, we are getting it as what? 600. It is the preliminary depth you can consider for the shear, which may possibly to be safe for the shear also. So what experts are recommending, whatever the depth you are getting for the flexure, it's 2 to 3 times the depth to be considered for the shear. So that's why overall depth of the foundation we are going to consider as of now. As a trial, it is 600 in mm overall depth. Now finally we have to calculate the effective depth actually present if you are going to decide the overall depth as 600. So assuming clear cover for the foundation as 50 mm and the bar of diameter 16 mm. So very simple, this is our foundation and this is your bar and this is your clear cover. Okay, so the clear cover is 50, bar is of diameter 16 and effective cover is up to the center of the bar. So how much it is going to become? 50 plus half of your diameter of bar, that is 8, it is going to become 58 mm. So total depth minus clear cover minus half of your diameter of the bar, we are getting what? Effective depth available as 542 in mm. It is the effective depth, final effective depth. Now area of the reinforcement required in both of the direction. So the formula is going to become 0.5 FCK divided by Fy, properties of your material, inside bracket 1 minus square root of 1 minus 4.6 and ultimate moment, fractal moment divided by FCK B D square. It is the effective depth square multiplied by B into D. B is nothing but your transverse dimension against to the considered direction. If you are going to do the calculation along this direction, so transverse direction in this direction, perpendicular dimension is what? 2.8 meter and considered dimension is also 2.8 meter because our footing is what? Square footing. Getting? So put all the values here in Newton and in mm. Okay, distances or dimensions should be in mm and forces should be in Newton. So 0.5 characteristic strength of the concrete is 20 divided by Fy, 415 is the grade of your steel, 1 minus square root of 1 minus 4.6 and moment is what? 594 into 10 raised to 6 where it is present ultimate moment 594 kilonewton meter. So it is 594 into 10 raised to 6 divided by concrete 20, size of the footing means B is 2800 multiplied by effective depth of 542 square. We already have calculated effective depth 542 square multiplied by B into D. B again 2800, 542 in mm. After putting all the values in this formula, we are getting the what area of the reinforcement required. Okay, and that is nothing but 3174.75 mm square. This is the design requirement. This much area of the reinforcement you had to provide for the flexure. Area of the steel required as minimum as per the IS 456. Our IS 456 is asking that minimum area of the reinforcement to be provided in a concrete plate, means it may be floor slab, it may be foundation slab, whatever. So it should be 0.12% of B into D. 0.12% B 2800 and overall depth is 600. Now finally minimum area of the reinforcement required 2016 mm square. Getting? Now we have to compare this design requirement and minimum requirement, and among these two value whichever is the maximum one, we have to consider that maximum value. So obviously 3174.75 mm square is the maximum one. That's why we are going to adopt this value. And finally, I would like to provide 16 mm diameter of bar, and unit area of 16 mm diameter of bar is 201.06 mm square. This is what unit area of 16 mm diameter of bar. Spacing required over the width and length. This is our footing where length is 2.8 meter, width is also 2.8 meter. See, 16 mm diameter of bar I would like to provide here. So what should be the spacing between these two bar? What should be the spacing between these two bar? What should be the spacing between these two bar? So spacing will be uniform, same. So we have to calculate what spacing we need to provide. So very simple to calculate the spacing. Spacing required will equal to unit area, because we have decided the 16 mm diameter of bar. So 16 mm diameter of bar is having the unit area 201.06. If you are going to use the 12 mm diameter of bar, so for the 12 mm diameter of bar, unit area is going to become 113.09 something is there. So you can check it. So basically, whatever the diameter of bar you are going to use, its unit area you need to know. How you will come to know the unit area? Pi by 4 d square. This will give you unit area, where d is the diameter of the bar. If you are going to use this formula, you will come to know what is the unit area of the bar. So here for 16 mm diameter of bar, unit area is 201.06 divided by total area of the reinforcement we have decided to provide. So we are going to provide 3174.75. So put it here, and considered width means very simple. Have a look over this. We are going to provide the reinforcement along this direction. In this direction we are going to provide, but look at this, it is going to be distributed over this direction, running in this direction but distributed in this direction. So this direction dimension we have to consider as 2800. Again, it is the square footing, so doesn't matter, both the direction is same, 2800. Finally it is going to become 177.33 mm. This much spacing between the two bars we need to provide, so that this much area is going to be accommodated in this footing. Okay, for the sake of safety, we will consider reduced spacing to ensure that the design is also safe in shear. So normally what I told you earlier, when you are going to do for the flexure, at that time you also have to think about the shear design as well, because if you are going to provide by just looking at the flexural demand, flexural requirement, so it may become fail in the shear demand. So that's why here it is written that for the sake of safety we should consider the reduced spacing. Whatever the spacing you are getting, that is okay, but you have to consider the reduced spacing over this demand, so that that design should be safe in shear as well. Actually you can go with this spacing also, but later on what problem will be there? Your design is going to fail, then you have to repeat the design. So to avoid repeating work, we are going to take the safety. So we are going to reduce this spacing. So in general case, we are going to provide the spacing with a round off of 25 mm in a lower side. So normally what we can provide 175 mm. So this 175 mm is safe for the flexure, and you can take 150 mm, that will also be okay, and you can take 125, that will also be okay. But if you are going to take 150 mm, so that may be very critical or may be unsafe for shear. You can do this trial on your own. I am not going to do it here. So for the safety, I would like to consider the spacing 125 mm center to center along length and width, means along both the direction. So towards safer side, I am going to adopt this spacing. If you will say that sir, I will provide 150 mm, sir, I will provide 175 mm, both are okay, both are acceptable, you can proceed for the flexural case. But at the time of the shear design, this 175, if you are going to choose the 175, that will definitely failing in one way shear. That's why we are going to provide the spacing as 125 mm center to center in both of the direction. Now as you have changed the spacing, obviously provided area of the reinforcement is what? Increased. How? Have a look over this. This is my foundation, right? I am going to provide the spacing for an example as 200 mm. If I am going to provide the spacing as 200 mm, so how many number of bars are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if the spacing is 200 mm, so bar is what? 5 for an example. And suppose this bar area is 1000 mm square. Now what I am going to do, I am going to provide the spacing as not 200, I am going to provide the spacing as 100 mm. So one more bar, one more bar, one more bar, one more bar everywhere. Now spacing is going to become what? 100 mm. So more bars are going to be placed in this span. Now the area of the reinforcement is going to increase to 2 times as 2000 mm square. So if we are going to reduce the spacing, the area of the reinforcement obviously will increase, number of bars will increase. So as you have reduced the spacing, so obviously your provided area of the reinforcement will also increase, because you are closing the bar, more bars you are going to provide. So that's why we are going to repeat the calculation to find out the finally provided area of the reinforcement. So ST will equal to unit area divided by finally provided spacing. Here the formula was same for calculating the spacing, unit area divided by provided area of the reinforcement. But now we have changed the spacing, so unit area divided by provided spacing and transverse dimension of the footing 2800. So finally we are getting 4503.8 mm area of the reinforcement we are going to provide. Earlier it was 3000 something, now it is 4000. So we are going to provide the more reinforcement, more steel, right? So finally provided percentage of reinforcement, total area provided divided by width multiplied by overall depth, and with this calculation we are getting the percentage of the reinforcement provided in your footing in both of the direction, means it is for each individual direction, in the direction along the length, in the direction along the width as 0.268 percentage. This much percentage of reinforcement we have provided in our footing for each individual direction. So this is all about the flexural design of your footing. Now after the preliminary sizing of the footing, length, width and depth, and flexural design of the foundation, means finding out the reinforcement in both of the direction, we have to check all of these things through the shear checks. So there are two types of the shear checks, one way shear check and two-way shear check, and we have to ensure that the provided length, width, depth and reinforcements are safe or not. So for that reason we have to consider the critical section at a distance of D from the face of your column. So this is the section we are going to consider for the case of one way shear, and for the case of the two way shear we are considering the shear at a distance of D by 2 from the face of the column around all the sides of your column. But for case of one way shear we have to consider the section at a distance of D from the face of your column, and we are trying to find out what is the maximum shear force is going to develop at this point, which is causing the cracks in your concrete, and your concrete along with the reinforcement is what capacity is having at this section. Make it simple, due to the action of the loading due to the shear force which is going to develop at this point, we will calculate it as VU, ultimate shear force. And due to this ultimate shear force at this section, what is the nominal shear is going to be developed at this section. And at this section there is a presence of the concrete, there is a presence of the steel, so they are having the capacity to resist this shear force, and that capacity we are going to calculate in terms of critical capacity. And you need to compare this nominal shear and this critical shear. This is the action, this is the reaction and resisting capacity. So always your action should be less than of the capacity, and if this criteria is what, if suppose we are getting, it means that our design is safe. If your nominal shear is more than of your critical shear, at that time your design is failing. You need to increase the reinforcement, you need to increase the depth, you need to work on that. So we have to check whether our design is safe or unsafe for the case of one-way shear. So very first we need to calculate what is the maximum shear force is going to develop at this section, that is nothing but the ultimate shear force. So critical section where we need to consider, here we have to consider at a distance of D from the face of your column. So this distance and how much the shear stress develop in this area, we will see that. So this distance we need to know. Very simple how to calculate it. This projection we are knowing 1.2 meter, and 1.2 meter minus this effective depth. How much it is? 0.542 is your effective depth. If you are going to take the difference of this, you will get your projection outside of this effective depth, that is coming out to be 0.658. So overall calculation here it is given, total length minus this side of the column divided by 2. So you will have this projection, and from this projection you have to subtract this effective depth, so you will finally have this distance. So this overall formula given here. Then this value should be multiplied with upward soil pressure 196.43 multiplied by, it is going to be distributed over the transverse dimension, that is nothing but the 2.8 meter. If you are going to do this entire calculation, you are getting the shear force value as 361.9 as the service value. You have to multiply this value with 1.5, you are getting the factored shear force 542.854 kilonewton. Now we have to calculate the nominal shear. Due to this ultimate shear force, what is the shear stress is going to be developed at this section. So formula is what? VU upon B into D, where VU we have to put in Newton, 542.854 into 10 raised to 3 divided by transverse dimension 2800 multiplied by effective depth 542. So nominal shear which is going to develop at this section is 0.358 MPa, means Newton per mm square. Right? Now to find the shear at the critical section, we earlier have discussed that we have to calculate two shear stresses at this section. One is your nominal shear, another one is your critical shear. So nominal shear we already have calculated 0.358 MPa. Now how you can calculate the critical capacity at this section? Because at this section concrete is present, at this section steel is also present. So both things we have to consider, and we have to take the help of IS 456. So we should know the percentage of reinforcement available at this section. Actually we have provided in both of the direction percentage of reinforcement as 0.268. So available percentage of reinforcement is what? 0.268. Grade of concrete is 20. Characteristic strength of concrete is 20. Now as per IS 456 2000, clause number 40.4 and table number 19. So this is what defining what critical shear you should have to consider. So for different percentage of the reinforcement as available, and based on the grade of the concrete, the value is actually showing here. So if your percentage of reinforcement is less than of 0.15%, so critical capacity to be considered as 0.28. If your percentage of reinforcement is 0.25%, you should have to consider 0.36. If your percentage of reinforcement is 1%, you have to consider 0.62. So based on what percentage is there, accordingly you have to consider the tau c value by looking at the grade of concrete. So our grade of concrete is M20, so we have to look at this column. And what is the percentage of the reinforcement? We have provided 0.268. so it is not any exact value which is given in this table. So it is what coming out to in between 0.25, 0.25 to 0.5. In between our value is present. So for 0.25, what is the value of tau c? 0.36. For 0.5, what is the value of tau c? 0.48. So we need to do the linear interpolation. Here what? 0.25, the value 0.36. For 0.5, value is what? 0.48. And our objective is to calculate the tau c value for the percentage of 0.268. So our value after doing the linear interpolation, okay, I am not going to discuss how to do the linear interpolation, you can do it. So by doing the linear interpolation, the value of tau c is coming out to be 0.369. So 0.369 is the tau c value. Now compare this tau c value with your nominal shear. Our nominal shear is what? 0.358 and tau c value 0.369. Hence it is your nominal shear is less than of your critical shear, hence provided depth is safe for the one-way shear check. So this we did for one direction, means along this direction. This same calculation you have to repeat for this direction, but here it is not needed to do because your footing is a square footing. So if you are doing the calculation in this direction, the same calculation or outcome will be for this direction because both directions are same. But if you are going to deal with the rectangular footing, then you have to do the calculation for this direction separately, for this direction separately. For both of the direction you have to do the calculation separately. So with this calculation we were concluding that our depth, our reinforcement, our size of the footing is safe for the case of one-way shear check. Now next check is your punching shear check, and it is very interesting check. Have a look what does it mean. This is my foundation and this is your column, and this column load is going to consider as a point load over your footing. So when the load is coming, it is going to act as a point over your footing. So very high stress is going to be developed at the face of the column, and there will be chances of the tearing of your concrete just like of your paper. So this axial force is going to act as a shear force over your footing in this area. This is a high stressed zone. So there will be possibility of punching out of this concrete slab, concrete foundation. So what possibility is there? This part will remain at its position and this part is get settled down. So this area at a distance of d by 2 from the face of your column, we are going to consider it is the critical area where very high stress of the axial force is going to develop, and there will be chances of the punching out this area. High cracks are going to be formed in this portion. So we have to check that we have provided the enough depth or not to resist this shear force, this punching shear force, whether our provided depth of the footing is safe or not. This we have to ensure. And how you can ensure? We have to follow the steps. So in case of one-way shear check, we were considered the critical section at a distance of D. But for the case of punching shear, we should have to consider the critical section at a distance of D by 2 from the face of your column in all the direction. It is not specific for one direction. It is for all the sides. Okay, it is a punching shear check. That's why we have to consider the critical section all around the face of your column at a distance of D by 2. So considering the critical section at a distance of D by 2 from the face of the column and knowing the shear force in this critical section, we need to find out what shear force is going to develop at this critical section. So V is equal to upward soil pressure multiplied by total area minus this shaded area. So how you can get this shaded area? This length and this length you have to multiply. How you will get this value? D by 2. D by 2 is going to become D plus this side of the column. So D plus side of the column is 0.4, and likewise for this direction D by 2 going to become D plus this side of the column is going to become total span of this shaded area. So again 0.4 plus D, 0.4 plus D, because the sides are same, and this is the total area or total size B into length, width of the footing, length of the footing. Put all the values in this formula, so you will get V value as a service value. Upward soil pressure 196 multiplied by total area 2.8 multiplied by 2.8 minus this shaded area 0.4 plus effective depth of 0.542, 0.542, 0.4. After doing this all calculation, we are getting the value of shear force for this punching shear 1365.706 kilonewton. Now multiply it with 1.5 to get the factored value. So we are getting the factored value as 2048.56 kilonewton. Now the nominal shear at critical section. Again we have to calculate the nominal shear, we have to calculate the critical shear, and then we will compare these two, and then we will decide whether design is safe or unsafe. So perimeter length of the shear area, here B dash is nothing but the perimeter length. So basically we have to calculate the running length of this shaded area, shaded portion. What is in length? This total. So very simple how to do this calculation. 0.4 side of the column and effective depth. Okay, so it is what? One side. How you can calculate this one side? Half going to become D plus side of the column 0.4. This is the one side, and you have to multiply it 4 times. So you will get complete running length. Getting? So we are going to put it here in this formula. 0.4 plus 0.542, multiply it with 4 times, we are getting 3.768. So in mm it is going to become 3768 in mm. Now put all the values in this nominal shear formula. Shear force 2048.56 into 10 raised to 3 divided by perimeter length 3768 multiplied by effective depth of 542. Put all the values here. Nominal shear we are getting 1.003 MPa. Finally, as per IS 456-2000 page number 58, clause number 31.6.3, here the critical shear means the punching critical shear Ks into tau c, where Ks will equal to 0.5 plus beta c. So I would like to put here tau c into Ks, where Ks equal to 0.5 plus beta c. Beta c will equal to shorter side of the column divided by longer side of the column. But our column is a square column, so that doesn't matter. The value of beta c we are getting it as 1. Now this 1 plus 0.5 will give you 1.5 as the Ks value. But if you are going to read IS 456, so IS 456 saying that the Ks value should not be greater than of 1. If the calculated value of Ks is more than of 1, then you have to consider the maximum value as 1. You are not allowed to take a Ks value more than of 1. So here I am going to adopt the value of Ks as 1 only. Put all the values in the Taussig formula. Ks into 0.25 under root of FCK, 1 into 0.25 under root of 20, 1.118 MPa. Nominal shear 1.003, critical capacity 1.118. So nominal is less than of your critical, hence provided depth is safe in punching or two-way shear. So your design is safe in one-way shear, your design is safe in two-way shear. In both of the cases your design is what? Safe. Now in respect of all these design results, we are finally going to prepare the schedule and detail. So you have to write all the dimension of the footing. Length of the footing 2800, width of the footing is 2800, and overall depth of your foundation is what? 600 in mm. So dimension of the footing, what reinforcements you are going to provide. So along the length 16 mm diameter of bar at a spacing of 125 mm center to center, and 16 mm diameter of bar again at a spacing of 125 mm center to center along the width of the footing. And this is what you are detailing. So the reinforcement provision here it is shown, and it is the 600 mm depth and it is 2.5 meter the depth of the foundation. Here I missed to show, this is what both the reinforcement in sectional detailing, diameter of bar as 16 at a spacing of 125 mm center to center. We will add it in the file, and in plan view also we can show the detailing of the reinforcement along this direction 16 at 125, along this direction 16 at 125, and the size of the footing 2.8 meter, 2.8 meter. So it is the square footing, this is the detailing, this is the scheduling, and above we have discussed all the steps for the designing of this square footing when it is going to be subjected to axial load only. So hope that you all understood step by step the complete calculation. Now finally it's a time to discuss about an important tool by which you can design this type of foundation in just of 2 to 3 minutes. If you are going to do the manual calculation as just now we have discussed, it takes about 30 minutes to 1 hour or more than of that. But if you are going to use this Excel sheet, you can complete your design in short period of time. So very first we are trying to understand how to use this Excel sheet. So basically you have to edit the values only in yellow cells. In white cells you don't need to do anything. White cells will automatically adjust the values based on the formula fed in that particular cells. You will get the green cell, that is the cell of the safety, or that is giving the sign for a particular parameter as it is safe. Wherever you are getting the red cell, that is the sign of the danger, the sign of the failure. You have to find the solution for that. You have to increase the value, you have to decrease the value, whatever you need to do that. So it is the sign of the failure or danger, and you will get the orange color cell, that is the cell which is defining the safe value, or the value if you are going to adopt in respect of that orange color cell, that value will be safe. So it is a guiding cell. This orange color cell will guide you what value you should consider for the safe design. So in the first we have to put all the given data as per your problem statement. So in our problem statement we have said that the SBC of the soil as 200, so that's why we are going to put here as what? 200. What is the unit weight of the soil? So unit weight of the soil is not given in our problem statement, so we are going to consider it as unit weight of the soil as 18. In most of the cases unit weight of the soil we are considering it as 18. Okay, if it is given in your problem statement, then you have to consider it as according to your problem statement. If it is not given, you can consider it as what? 18. Depth of the foundation. Depth of the foundation is also given as 2.5 meter. So we are going to write here as what? 2.5 meter. What is the size of the column? Our column is what? Square size. So that's why it is 400 by 400. Width of the column and depth of the column, both the things we have to define here. Okay. Now what is the total intensity of the loading transferred through your column? That is what? Service load. So we have given in two way. One is 1000 as dead load and 400 as live load. Combinedly is going to become 1400 kilonewton transferred through your column. That's why we are going to put here as what? 1400 kilonewton. Is there any lateral load, horizontal load to your footing? There is no any lateral load to your footing. That's why it should be 0. Is there any movement about major axis, minor axis? That is not present in your problem statement. That's why you have to put the value as 0. So whatever the value is given in your problem statement, that you have to define here, and whatever is not given, you have to put the value as 0. Now next, friction coefficient. Is there any friction coefficient given in your problem statement? No. That's why you can put it as 0. No need to define it here. Water depth. Is there any water depth? You have to put it as what? 0. And grade of concrete. Is there any grade of concrete? So we have to put it as what? 20. Grade of concrete we have to consider M20, and grade of steel we should have to consider it as what? Fe415. So we have to take Fe415. Clear cover for the footing is 50. Diameter of the bar we should have to consider as per our choice. You can consider 10, 12, 16, 20, whatever. So I am going to consider it as what? 16. Now finally we have to consider the self weight of the footing by percentage. So in our manual calculation, what we are considering? 10%. That's why we are going to write here as what? 10%. So finally your sheet is going to calculate total load is going to be transferred to the soil plus area of the footing. So we don't need to bother about what is coming in your white cell. We just had to focus on your yellow cells. You have to edit the values in that. Now finally, length of the footing and width of the footing in demand. So as I earlier said that this orange color cell will suggest what value you should have to consider. So width should be considered 2.77, length to be considered as 2.77. That's why I would like to provide here as 2.8, a little more than of your required one. And this is what? The projection in both of the direction, 1.2, 1.2. So it is what? Length and width of the footing is decided. Upward soil pressure, maximum and minimum both will be same because it is a uniform upward soil pressure. As you can see here, it is a uniform pressure from one end to another end, 196.43. Sheet is also doing the same thing. Now rest of all things where the sheet is going to do, and design moment at the proposed section means at the face of the column 594. In our manual calculation it is also 594 factored moment. What is the effective depth required? 277. Your sheet is also calculating 277.24, and we are considering the overall depth as 600. So if you are defining the overall depth as 600, so sheet automatically going to calculate effective depth available 542, as we did in our manual calculation. Effective depth available as 542. Now what is the area of the reinforcement required in both of the direction? 3174. Here also sheet is calculating in both of the direction, 3174 point something is there, and minimum area of the reinforcement required 2016. And in our manual calculation also we are calculating the same thing, 216, and spacing required 177. And sheet is also showing if you are going to provide 16 mm dia, yeah, here you have a chance to change the diameter of bar. 12 you can take 16, you can take 20, you can take 22, 25, whatever. So it is in your hand what diameter of bar you would like to choose. If I am choosing the 16 mm diameter of bar, you are getting the spacing requirement as 177. So you don't need to do every time manually. See how smartly sheet is showing. If I am using 20, 277 spacing is required. If I am using 12, 99.75 mm spacing required. So it is what showing the value in respect of what dia you are choosing. So I am choosing a 16 mm dia, so 177 along the width, 16 mm dia. Again here also you can choose 177 mm spacing. So what spacing provided, what spacing you would like to provide. So I would like to provide 125 along width, 125 along the length. In both of the direction, 16 mm diameter of bar at a spacing of 125 mm center to center I am going to provide. And in respect of this, what final percentage of reinforcement and area is there? 4503.8. Look at your manual calculation. 4503.8, and percentage is what? 0.268 in both direction. Here exactly same the value is coming. Now one way shear check is safe along the length of the footing. One way shear check is safe along the width of the footing. See, you will say that sir, provide the spacing as 175 only, because that will also be the safe, because demand is 177, so we should go with a 175. So in manual calculation you have to do the repetitive calculation, but by the excel sheet you don't need to do that. You just have to put and take the result. So suppose I would like to provide 175. If 175 along the width, it is failing along the width, one way shear check. 175 along the length, it is failing. Fail, revise the depth of the footing and or increase the reinforcement. These two solution will be there. Either you can increase the depth, suppose 1000 mm depth, so it is now passing. So one solution is what? Increasing the depth. So I am not interested to increase the depth. So there is the option is what? Reducing the spacing, means increasing the reinforcement percentage. So what I would like to try 150. 150, you will say that sir, okay, do not provide 175, provide 150. So if I am providing 150, even with 150, one way shear check is not passing in both of the direction. So only option is to provide 125, 125, and that's why in my manual calculation I directly have taken 125 mm center to center spacing. So now here 125 in both of the direction, so provided depth is safe in one way shear along width and length in both of the direction along with the provided reinforcement as well. Now we have to perform the check for the punching. So your punching shear check is also safe. So nominal shear 1.003 and your critical shear is 1.118. It is again safe. Provided depth is safe for two-way shear. In our manual calculation, it was also safe for the punching 1.003 and 1.118. It is all safe. Okay, so this is all done, and it is the stability checks: uplift check, sliding check and overturning check. Your uplift check is applicable when your water table is close to your foundation, but in our problem statement there is no water level is given. It means that no need to perform the uplift check. Second, that's why the sheet is saying that not applicable. Sliding check is required when your foundation is subjected to lateral load, horizontal load. So no horizontal load is given in your problem statement. That's why we have defined here it as 0. Hence it is not applicable. Overturning check is also required when the structure, means mainly the foundation, is subjected to lateral load plus the eccentricity is there. So in our problem statement both of the thing is not there. No lateral load is there, no eccentricity, no movement is there. That's why it is again not needed to perform the stability checks against the overturning. So no stability checks required. That's why not applicable, not applicable, not applicable. So your Excel sheet, means this particular Excel sheet, is capable to perform the stability checks as well. So finally the smartness of the Excel sheet is what? You can prepare your schedule. So go to your schedule and this is your schedule list. Coming back to your design, and this is suppose group 1. I would like to write here as group 1. How many number of footings are there? One footing is there only in the first group. I would like to write, click here, send to schedule. Once you click over the send to schedule, go to schedule and see here one schedule is updating. Coming back to your design, suppose I have designed another footing and it is the group 2, and suppose 3 footings in this particular group, and this is the schedule automatically coming from your above design. You cannot edit it because it is the schedule of your above design. And now send to schedule. Once you click over the send to schedule, go to schedule. Now second is there. If you are feeling that the last entry is wrong, so I want to erase the last entry, you have to click over the clear last entry. Once you click over the clear last entry, it is what deleted from here. Now coming back, now it is suppose 6 number of footings are there in the group 2. So I would like to click over the send to schedule. Now in schedule, the group 2 is 6 footing and the size and reinforcement is now present here. Coming back to this. Now if you feel that I want to clear all the data, suppose I want to send multiple entries. Now go to your schedule. These all entries are there. Coming back to your design, I want to clear all the results from the schedule list and you want to create the new project. Clear these all. So in schedule, all is clear. Coming back to your design. So now in this way you can prepare your schedule, and this is your detailing. So here width and length of your footing is 2.8, depth of the footing is 600 mm, and in plan dimension, and this is the detailing of the reinforcement. 2.8 width or length, 600 depth, these are the reinforcement placing. And in plan it is showing what 16 mm diameter of bar along this direction at a 125 mm spacing, 16 mm diameter of bar at a spacing of 125 mm center to center in both of the direction. So this is what complete design schedule detail done by this spreadsheet. And guys, you can design rectangular footing, you can design uniaxially loaded footing, means axial load plus movement about one direction, and axial load plus movement about both axis, means in both direction. If suppose movement is present, that also you can design by this Excel sheet. So every type of the pad footing you can design by this spreadsheet. So if you would like to get this Excel sheet, the link is available in the description, or you can visit our website. And thanks for watching this video. For better understanding, if you like this video, please like it, share it and subscribe it, and we will meet you in next video. Thank you.